Thank you. You may be seated. What a joy it is to be back with you this morning and to have an opportunity to continue to help on some level to make some contribution, I hope, to the overall elasticity of thought through which we derive a better understanding of what we can do next. I want to, I'll dispense with a lot of formalities and that sort of thing, other than to say that I really do think that there is some fresh oil flowing on Dr. Winston. And you should see us behind the scenes get together and have lunch. We can shut a restaurant down. It make us want to leave. Would you all please leave? Somebody wants your table, but when we get together, we have such a great time. I mentioned my Pastors and Leadership Conference. I do want to mention MegaFest just for a second. My son, when I did the first MegaFest in Atlanta, he said, "Daddy," he said, "look what you did. We had over, I think, about 110,000 people in there, 300,000 over a 3-day period. We rented the Georgia Dome, the Phillips Arena, the World Congress Center. We had over about a $12 million budget, and we didn't have $12 million." and we put together we want to move in the hood. Yeah. They said, we want to move in the hood. And all of a sudden I realized I was so busy working to give something to them that I had not left enough in them. Because ultimately it's not what you give to your children, it's what you put in your children that causes them to be successful. And suddenly I realized that they wanted to be in the hood, not because they had low self-esteem, not because they like roaches. But I realized all of a sudden that they wanted to be in the hood so they could fit in. They wanted acceptance. I could go into a whole class on this, but there's the whole issue with upwardly mobile minorities. You can't fit in many times into the people you work with because you don't look like them. And you can't fit in with the people that you look like because you don't talk like them. And so anybody who is exceptional, bring me a little bit of water if you would. Anybody who is exceptional has to run the risk of being rejected. And in order to be able to do it, you have to be bold. I want to talk to you today about the death of radicalism. The death of radicalism. That we're living in a time that, like my kids, they're so busy, they were at the time, that was years ago, trying to fit in and be accepted, that we have lost all hope of radicalism. And the death of radicalism is our focus today, because whether you're going to be successful in business, in church, in any form of leadership, if you are still trying to fit in, then you might as well get up and put your finger up for whatever that means and tip out the door right now. Because what I'm talking to you about is we are suffering, hemorrhaging right now, financially, economically, corporately, in every facet of life for the death of radicalism. We do not have enough people who are willing to stand out. We have too many people that are trying to fit in. Are you with me right now? So I want to explore this a little bit. I want to explore radicalism, not just being radical for radical's sake. Because some people are just radical. They're just radical to be radical. Just what you say the sky is blue, they say, well, not really, you know. So I'm not just trying to be radical for radical's sake. Too many people have followed the path to become peculiar rather than revelatory. They're peculiar, not revelatory. They're just strange. They're just weird. They're just out somewhere out of sync with everything and everybody. Others become engulfed in duplicating what they already see around them. They want to be Me Too's. They come from the perspectives of Me Too. They haven't had a fresh thought in years. In all of their life, they haven't produced anything amazing. All they do is graft in your ideas, put it in their mouth, and walk with it as if it were something. But in reality, they are just copycats. They have a Me Too mentality. But the real question for you is, what were you called to change? What were you called to change? You need to be able to answer this question. What were you called to change? If the answer is nothing, then you need to take down your sign over leadership and support somebody who was. The truth of the matter, you can't let low self-esteem or fear or little idiosyncrasies that people have, childhood issues and needing to be seen and needing to be heard, to drive them into positions of leadership to stroke their ego, but they really came to change absolutely nothing. The only number that can be added to a number and never change it is a zero. So if you don't add anything in any area that you come into, I hate to bring you the bad news, but you have to be a zero. When you join something, you should change it. The very fact that you walked in the room should change it. If you join a church and you don't change it, you're a zero. If you join a wife and you don't add to her, you're a zero. If he married you and you didn't add to his life, then he married a zero. If they hired you and you didn't make the company better, you're a zero. If you started a business and it's not going anywhere, you're a zero. You have to understand that change is the barometer through which we can evaluate accomplishment. And if you were not called, and everybody is not called to change something, some people are called to support people who do. And there's nothing wrong with finding fulfillment and being a part of something that's bigger than you and stronger than you. And don't let people push you outside of your realm of expertise to be something that you are not. You can teach what you know, but you can only reproduce what you are. See, I could teach Chinese, but I can't reproduce a Chinese child. You can teach whatever you want to teach, but you can only reproduce what you are. So a lot of us are teaching something, looking to produce something that we actually are not, because we think that you can teach it and produce it, but you will reproduce ultimately what you are. Are you following what I'm saying? If you were called to make a difference, if you were really called to make a change, then why acquiesce to normalcy? Why have you dumbed down your creative impulses to the point that, like my kids, you want to be a part of the hood, you want to run with the pack? Most of the time I talk to leaders today, I'm amazed at how many leaders, when we do Q&A, are whining about somebody talking about them, somebody fighting them. They don't like me. If you want to wreck a church in 5 minutes, start talking about haters. People go nuts when you start talking about haters, because subconsciously we have not really begun to understand that we have to be radical enough to withstand controversy. And until you are radical enough that you have controversy, and that in fact, if you understand what I'm saying really good, you'll actually rejoice when people attack you. Yeah, because at least they noticed you. At least they know you were here. At least they know you did something. You were radical enough. You stood out far enough. You took some risks. You went over the edge long enough to start controversy. Your psyche, your mind, your mentality has to be prepared for success. You can have the education that brings success. You can have the entrepreneurial pursuit that brings success. You can have the dexterity of wit and the nimbleness of mind in order to bring success. But if you don't have the inner will and fortitude to withstand all of those who would resist what you're doing for whatever reason, then you'll never be able to be really radical. And radicals make the difference. I want you to write that down. Radicals make the difference. The real truth of the matter is that we have acquiesced into normalcy to the degree that whether you're in business or whether you're in faith or whatever realm of influence you're in, we're just trying to fit in. We have Sunday school because they have Sunday school. We have Wednesday night Bible class because they have Wednesday night Bible class. We have First Sunday Communion because they have First Sunday Communion. We're trying to fit in, just trying to fit in. When you started your business, you started your company, you started it with something in mind that you wanted to be, that you wanted to provide, that was exceptional. But in the humdrum business of day-to-day operation, your creativity often wanes, and you don't even know when it happened. Yes, sir. When I came to Dallas 18 years ago, it was the talk of the city. It was a good talk from the sense that we had traffic jams backed up for miles trying to get into our church. I had to have 5 services within a 24-hour period to accommodate all the people that were in my church. And then I got down into the busyness of life, just busy putting it together. And what was cutting edge became normal. Because every day that you exist, somebody's catching up with you. Every day that you exist, somebody's coming up with you. Every day, somebody's catching up with you. If you don't believe that, ask Blockbusters. You can go to sleep at the wheel if you want to and think you have an edge on a product or a service or a community if you want to. And while you are asleep, somebody who is really willing to be radical is coming up with something that's going to make what was radical antiquated. I'm trying to make you understand in 18 years of business, I didn't notice that other people had caught up and I had stopped being creative. And the enemy to really being radical is high demands, it's busyness. You can be so busy with busyness that you are killing your business. Busyness will make you go for the easy, quick, traditional solution, will make you acquiesce to mediocrity. In fact, I want you to understand this. If you are doing anything right now that somebody else could do, you shouldn't be doing it. If you are doing anything that somebody else in your organization, auxiliary team, or church could do, you shouldn't be doing it. Because really radical people should be reserved for their highest and best use. And yet some of us are counterintuitive and counterproductive in being able to accomplish that because we have a propensity to do what we used to do rather than what we ought to do. Nobody can do it well enough, so we won't delegate it to anybody because we are doing what we used to do. And sometimes you can have the creativity to move into a realm that you don't have the mentality to maintain. In other words, you suffer from the dog car syndrome. The dog car, you know, when the car rushes down the street, the dog starts barking, takes out after it, goes to running to chase it. And then if it doesn't catch that car, another car comes down the street, the dog starts barking, takes out after him, runs after him, trying to catch him. Another car, dog starts barking, runs after him, tries to catch him. The problem with the dog and the car is not just that the dog has trouble getting up the speed that the car does, it is that the dog is running without a plan to recognize, I can't drive. So we have people running to get something, and you spend all your energies to get it and no passion on how to run it. I admire the fact that you fought to get into business, but can you run it now that you're in it? Do you have a strategy, or are you just a dog trying to catch something in motion and no plan and no strategy to make yourself relevant after you caught it? As my father would say, it takes more to keeping things, boy, than it does to getting it. That was his byword every day. Yeah, because we don't necessarily have a strategy, a passion, and a radicalism once we have accomplished something. And while we are beginning to take it for granted, somebody else is moving up behind us trying to take over. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I want to talk to you about getting so busy that you've lost your creativity. That the thing that caused you to rise to the top in the first place is not the thing that you may be doing right now. That the success of where you were on one level has left you with a load of business and a load of details that have to be accomplished, and the very thing that caused you to stand out, you've given up because you've acquiesced to doing what you have to do. It's the difference between dating and marriage. If you married who you dated, everything would be cool. I know you can't say nothing. Just keep looking straight ahead. I don't expect an amen. Yeah. Most marriages fail because they get down into the busyness of marriage. And you didn't date for that. You didn't date that person. You didn't date that person where you discuss bills and who takes out the trash and the kids have got to get up at 4 and 5 o'clock. And all of a sudden you get so busy with the busyness of marriage that you have lost the romance of marriage. And all of a sudden, he or she is trying to get out the window or the door because you used to be radical and now you're presumptuous. You assume that what you give should be good enough for me. Whew, gonna be rough today. Okay. Most business people do the same thing. They take their crowd for granted. They don't remain cutting edge. They don't keep reading, they don't keep studying, they don't keep being innovative. They've stopped being radical. They've normalized themselves, and then you're giving people what they used to need. And frustrated because you're not getting the response because you've not kept up with what needs to be done. And one of the problems that we have, particularly with leaders in every walk of life, we have a propensity to want to fit in. Maslow did something that I want to put up on the screen, and he takes a different road from most sociologists. Most sociologists are trying to study people that are dysfunctional. He wanted to study people that were highly functional. So he took the best and the brightest of people who were radical in their thoughts and their ideologies, and he studied their characteristics and traits. And he assumed certain things that I want to share with you. He studied some things and came to some conclusions that I want to share with you today. I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get a lot in a little bit of time. Thank you. I got at least one fan out there. That's good, I'll take it. On the first level, he begins to deal with our physiological needs, our basic needs, the need for food, the need for water, the need for sleep, the need for sex was included in there. Basic biological needs that we need in order to have a sense of well-being and happiness. This is that root called the bottom level, ground level zero. I must have this, can't make it without it. I need it to survive, to be sustained, and to feel good about myself as a person. The next level of things that we need in order to make us really be who we ought to be is a sense sense of safety, to be incubated in a sense of safety, to feel secure about ourselves. You cannot be creative, you cannot be innovative if you don't feel safe. Okay, you have to feel safe. That's why when you create a toxic atmosphere on your job for creative people, they end up leaving your organization. Because if people don't feel safe, they can't be creative. They can only be creative when you give them an environment where they can speak up without being reprimanded, where they can suggest ideas without having to acquiesce to your ego. You have to create an environment of safety or people are not able to do what they need to do. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I don't want to hire anybody at a fair wage that I turn around and muffle by my Napoleon attitude and my inability to receive counsel from the people around me, under me, and above me. Let everybody talk to you. You don't have to do it, but you sure ought to hear it. There is something that somebody loading a truck can tell you about business that you might not realize. They may know something about the shipping and the receiving that you need to hear that is not going to be on your balance sheet. You need to talk to everybody if you're going to be effective and create an environment. Go back to the other screen. Create an environment where you can be safe, where you feel secure. Go back to the other slide, please. Where you can feel good about yourself, because creativity flows in an atmosphere of safety. Are you following what? The third thing that we need is love and belonging. We need a sense of giving and receiving love. We need to feel like I belong here, that my heart is not homeless. You'd be surprised at the people who have a home for your body and no home for your heart. Some people don't have a home for a heart even with a companion. And when your heart is homeless, you can't function at its highest and best and brightest potential, because we have a basic need to belong and to feel love and to feel safe. And it causes us to next have a sense of esteem and being valued, being significant, that you consider yourself a contribution, that you have accessed your net worth as a human being. And I'm not talking about dollars and cents. Do you know your net worth as a human being? In other words, let me say this way. What do people get when they get you? What do people get when they get you? If you can't answer that question, I can tell you right now, you'll never be successful. If you don't have confidence with what you bring to the table, if you don't have the stability of delivering a promise that I can count on, you might have everything else, but you're not a brand. And people will not trust a brand that cannot fulfill its promise. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Consistently, every time, it's got to be excellent. You can work for McDonald's all you want to. I know McDonald's is headquartered here. You can open up the McDonald's and get the golden arches all you want to and say, well, you know, I'm a franchisee of McDonald's, but I don't like their French fries. I want to fix those big fat French fries that my mama used to cut when she cut the potato. And you know the kind I'm talking about. And I'm not going to use their buns. I'm going to use Wonder Bread, one of those. Y'all don't know anything about a hamburger made with Wonder Bread with lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise on it, where when you squeeze the hamburger, it gets a little bit mushy and messy. You don't get to build it your way and still have the golden arches. There is a recipe, there is a science, there is a commitment about it. And if you're going to do it, you have to do it my way or you don't get to do it. That's the way the franchise is. Excellence cannot be left up to individuals in your team. Their interpretation of your brand will not work. The fact that you like greasy hamburgers doesn't mean that you get to change the menu to fit your personal preference. And I want to ask you a question. Are you providing a service to people up under the assumption that the people you serve are like you? You are not your client. And you need to understand the needs of your client rather than selling your personal preferences. So when you have a sense of esteem for yourself and you have an esteem for your coworkers and you have esteem for your client, your bottom line begins to go up. And finally, at the opiate, you come into self-actualization, where you really become into a sense of radicalism. You're willing to be yourself. You understand who you are aside from who you love. You are not defined by where you live. You are not defined by the family that nurtures you. You are willing to take the risk of being radical. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Because the people who change the world are radical people. They're radical people. That's why Maslow did the experiment. He wanted to understand what is it about these people that causes them to self-actualize and change the world, and people begin to follow them, they buy from them, they build from them, they buy their products. They only do it when you are unique. People never follow ordinary. They only follow extraordinary. So while you're trying to be ordinary, you lose your opportunity to be followed because people only follow extraordinary. And the problem is, a lot of times we can't rise to the point of self-actualization because we're still stuck at love and belonging. So we bring our needs for acceptance into our business plan, into our business, into our church, and all of a sudden you're having petty fights with people because you don't feel comfortable enough in who you are as an individual that you're trying to work out a personal relationship model in a public setting. And God cannot bring the level of partnership to you that he would like to bring to you because your window through which you operate is so narrow. You choose your partners like you choose your friends. And if they don't fit the motif of what you like as an individual, you lose the opportunity to do business with people and to go to the next level and to partner together because you are still operating up under a level of love and belonging rather than self-actualization. When you're still stuck in love and belonging, only certain people can work around you, only certain people can work with you because you need to be accepted, and you're carrying out your personal needs in a public setting, and your life is suffering for it because you haven't self-actualized enough to be able to stand on your own feet whether they like you or support you or not. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? So a lot of us keep trying to stick our head into self-actualization, and we really want to be radical, but if we do something that's radical and somebody criticizes it, we drop down to love and belonging, and we give up on our dreams just to fit in with our team. We give up on our dreams just to fit in with our team. We give up on our dreams just to fit in with our team. We give up on our dreams just to fit in with our team. We give up on our dreams just to fit in with our team. We give up on self-actualization because we're trying to get love and belonging from people we work with. Get that at home. Get that through your circle of friends. Get that through your connections. Don't work out your personal problems in a public place, because there may be somebody who would be a great asset to you who does not send out the kind of scent that you need to give you a sense of love and belonging. They don't stroke your ego. They don't make you feel good about yourself. They don't handle themselves the way you want to handle them. And you're too small to open your arms wide enough to accept who God sent because they don't reinforce you. And you lose the opportunity to be exceptional, because if you're truly going to be exceptional, if you're truly going to be radical, you have to be willing to stand out. You have to be willing to be hated. You have to be willing to be controversial. You have to be willing to have certain people talking about you, and you walk in the room and all the conversation talks. You have to be okay with that. Because if you're a radical, that's going to happen. This ministry was born out of a radical. Bill Winston is a radical. He may not call himself a radical, but he absolutely is a radical. That's why he had to build his church, because he's radical. He didn't fit in anywhere else, and what he wanted to do was unique to the surroundings around him, and he said, I'm willing to stand out and be different and start something radical. And look at how many people started following him because he was willing to be radical. Radicals build people, they draw people, they stand out, they become lightning rods for controversy. But you can't do anything if you're not radical. I'm thinking of Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther. Born in 1483 to parents Hans and Margaret Luther, he was a peasant. He was a peasant. He was a peasant. And his father had a dream that one day he might be able to do something, that he might be able to get his son to be a lawyer, to be a doctor. It was their dream that he would be a lawyer or a doctor. People will assign their dream to your life. And if you're not careful, you will be walking in a path that is not congruent with your instincts. The reason I wrote instinct in the first place is that the compass that guides your creativity must be within you and not outside of you. You cannot do it because your mother wanted you to do it. You cannot be it because your wife needs you to do it. It has to be true to who you are. It has to be down at your core. It has to be down at your essence. And it takes a long time to know who you are. He was 14, he goes to Aspen. At 1501, Martin enters into a university at Epford where he received a master's degree in grammar, logic, rhetoric, and metaphysics. Still hasn't hit it yet. Got a degree in one thing, but destiny is calling him to something else. By 1513, Luther prepares a thesis on Psalms 22. What happens in between 1505 and 1513? I'm glad you asked. He has this catastrophic event in his life where things go crazy, and he has a lightning rod experience. In July of 1505, Martin was caught in a horrific thunderstorm. It must have been a doozy too, because the lightning was falling all around him. He thought he was going to die. He screamed out and prayed to St. Mary, which was the patron of the Catholic Church, send a help to deliver me, and if I survive this, I'll be a monk. All of a sudden, with metaphysics in his background and a dad who wants him to be a lawyer, he has a lightning rod experience that brings him into an experience with faith. And he says, I want to be a monk. And then he goes in to fit in. He wants to fit in. He wants to go with them. He wants to be a part of them. He wants to be connected with them. But it started to bother him. It started to bother him that those people who were in leadership were often using their platform to raise money purely just to build buildings and really weren't helping people. And he becomes frustrated because even here he doesn't fit. He didn't fit in his family. He didn't fit his father's dream. He didn't fit his degree. He didn't fit into his background. And now he's a monk and he doesn't fit as a monk. He does a thesis on Psalms 22 because he's suffering and understanding that he is human and frail and fallen and fleshly and carnal, and yet he has something divine all at the same time. Finally, he gets into Romans and does a dissertation on Romans. And when he does a dissertation on Romans, it leads to the 96 thesis that he posts on the door. And out of his radical, militant, wild behavior comes the Protestant church today. The guy, amen, there wouldn't be Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Protestant churches we know it today if it were not born from a radical individual who said, I don't fit in here, I'm ready to stand out, I'm ready to do something exceptional, and millions upon millions of people all over the world have entered into his radical decision. You need a radical decision that's big enough to house somebody other than you. You need a radical decision that's big enough to house somebody other than you. If your radical decisions are only just focused on you, I can tell you right now, you won't have a crowd. You won't have support. You won't have a strong base, and you won't have success. Because what you're really doing is you're not leading people, you're manipulating people to stroke your need. People, in order to work with you, need to know that you have a vision not only for the company, but a vision for them. How do I fit into the overall vision? The customer needs to know that you have a vision for them, and you need something big enough to warrant the creative influence that I'm talking about today. I want to talk to you a little bit. Let me see how much time I got. Okay, good. Okay. Bill said, go ahead. See, what I'm trying to get you to see is the power of being radical. There's not hardly a city in America that doesn't have a Dr. King Boulevard. Dr. King Boulevard or Dr. King Gymnasium or Dr. King this or that and the other. There's hardly a city in America that doesn't have a preacher who's trying to be a Dr. King wannabe. I have a dream, brothers and sisters. Good morning, faithful Central. Welcome to trying to talk like Dr. King, trying to walk like Dr. King. Dr. King's been dead for years, and people are still trying to be Dr. King. Problem is, he would be shocked to see the highways. He'd be shocked to see the various denominations that now support him, because in real-time speed, the very ones who supported him hated him. Some excommunicated him. Some put him out of the way. Radicalism is not celebrated initially. Radicalism gets its reward in hindsight. People catch up with you later. You have to have the courage to be controversial and creative in real-time speed so that ultimately by the time they get it, you're generally dead and they'll name something about you after you're gone. So if you are trying to be understood through what you do, you can never be truly creative or resourceful because you're so busy trying to fit in that you can't stand out far enough to let history catch up with you, to let time catch up with you. They're going to understand you later. They won't understand you in real-time speed. They won't support you in real-time speed. You have to understand that. I understand that as a man. I understand that as a leader. I understand that as a father. From my point of view, fathers get their biggest reward later. It's not a sexy job. Mothering is a sexy job. I'm not saying it's not a lot of work, but it gets a reward. It has gratification right then. They hug mama. They come up and make pictures for mama and drawings for mama. They pass football and they say, I just want mama, I love you. Mama's going to get hers in real-time speed. Good fathers are not fully recognized until they're not there anymore. So you can't do it for the clap because you may not get it. You have to do it because it's right, and you have to do it because it needs to be done, and you have to do it because it's important. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm not nearly as concerned about my kids loving me as I am them respecting me. Respect me. You can love me later. Yeah, because you're not really going to understand who I am till you try to do what I did. And then when you try to do what I did, you'll do, oh, y'all don't hear what I'm saying to you. The same thing that is true in the home is also true in the business. You can't go into work every day or build your business around people liking you and understand you. Don't worry about them loving you. Get love at home. Find somebody give you some love. What you want is some respect up in here. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? See, in order to be radical, you have to be willing to stand out. You have to do it because you believe in it. You have to do it because it's important. You have to do it because it's right. And then after you've done it, you have to keep doing it again. You can't normalize out and lose your creative influence because somebody's watching you. Somebody's coming up on you. Somebody's trying to be the next you. Somebody's trying to replace you. And I'm not saying that to threaten you or intimidate you. I am telling you, you have to keep it moving. I'm telling you that it is easy to be radical at one stage in your life and then become traditional at another stage in your life, because what was radical 10 years ago is not radical now. And you might be reading yesterday's paper about you. You were radical yesterday. Now you're irrelevant. In order for me to follow you, you must keep moving. If you stop moving, I cannot follow a parked vehicle. So you have to keep up in the game and up in the game. And touch your neighbor and say, up the game. If you work for somebody, you got to keep up in the game, because there's somebody outside who would love to have the job you're complaining about. You got to up the game and never assume that I've been here 10 years. I'm friends with the pastor. I go fishing with his wife. I don't care where you go. If you don't keep it moving, they're going to find somebody to replace you and who's more cutting edge. As Apple phone, every time I get used to a phone, they got a new one. They keep updating and updating and updating and updating and updating. I think, my Lord, I just figured out this one. Now you got another one. They know that if they don't keep it moving, somebody's going to come up behind them and outdo them, and they're going to be history. They're going to be ghosts. They're going to be blockbusters. How in the world did Blockbusters let Netflix whip them down like that? I'll tell you how they did it. They did it by, at one time, they were radical. They were radical. Did you used to be radical? Have you stopped being a radical wife? He married a radical woman. Now he's got mommy. Are you still a radical man? She married a man who was exciting and romantic. Now you're just tired and you grunt. Anytime you lose radicalism, you lose relationships, you lose opportunity, you lose productivity, and you lose profit. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Do you hear what I'm saying? Keep it moving. Over and over, I want to go to, there's a term that really excites me, and it's agriculture, and it's really exciting. God defines himself in terms of agriculture. From Genesis to Revelations, over and over again, God's default setting is always agriculture, sowing and reaping, seed time and harvest, seed to the sower, bread to the eater. It's always about agriculture. It's always about agriculture. Write that down. It is always about agriculture. When Jesus gets ready to teach the disciples, he says, I am the vine and ye are the branches. Okay, every branch in me beareth fruit, I purge it that it might bring forth more fruit. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, I take it away. Why do they keep talking about agriculture? The word agra means land. It's a Latin word that means land. The word agra means land. The word culture is rooted in a word that has a negative connotation in our society, cult. Agriculture is a land cult. What is a cult? When we say a church or movement is a cult, it means that they're not orthodox. It means that they don't fit the motif. It means that they're not normal. It means that they're not organic. And when you say it's a cult, it means it's not orthodox. Agriculture is saying this is a land cult. What I plant right here wouldn't normally grow right here. It's a cult to the environment. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? God is in the business of agriculture. He's in the business of making things work in places that they're not supposed to work. I'm talking about exceptionalism. I'm talking about things that are not organic. I'm talking about people who stand out in the midst of a lineage of a family who never did anything with their lives, and all of a sudden God sends you and he does an agriculture thing. You don't fit your family, you don't fit your background, you don't fit your circumstance, but God just willed you to be, and he brought you a root out of dry ground. If anybody heard your real story, they wouldn't even understand how in the world you ended up where you ended at, because God is an agriculturalist. You're not orthodox, you don't fit in, you're out of the box, you're not organic to your environment, and all of a sudden you have agriculture. And agriculture produces fruit in volumes. That's why the first thing God says to man, the very first command that God gives to man is be fruitful. In order to be fruitful, you must be seedful. You cannot be fruitful if you're not seedful. And I'm telling you right now, in the spirit world, seeds are thoughts. And I'm telling you that you are suffering from the lack of creative thought. You're praying for something that God already answered with. You pray for a tree, God doesn't send you a tree, he gives you a seed. You pray for prosperity, God's not going to send money, he gives you a thought. A thought, agriculture, a seed, he plants a seed. And if you can bring the seed out of your thought life into fruition, then you will see seed time and harvest. See, a seed only works when you plant it. It requires action. It cannot bring life as long as you store it. Your stored thoughts is where your money is where your future is where your productivity is where your best marriage is where your greatest thought is in the things that are in your head that need to get out the shelf of your mind and be planted in the soil of your life. And God is going to do an agriculture. He's going to cause it to grow in spite of its environment, in spite of its surrounding. He will cause it to stand out and be able to grow. Oh God, I feel something about to happen in this place. I feel something about to happen in this place. It's time for you to stand out. People can't come to a business that you don't market. You're too busy to market. There is no excuse for poor marketing today. You can do marketing from your phone. This is ridiculous. I don't understand this Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. What you don't understand is killing you. Get out and practice it. Baby boomers, get out and practice it. Figure it out. There's a whole world of people that want to connect with you over the internet. It doesn't take a lot of money to do it. You don't have to have a lot of graphic arts design. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be relevant. People can't find your business. You are not there. They're not looking in the yellow pages anymore. They're not reading it in the newspaper anymore. They're not going to drive by and discover your business. Get up off the seat and do nothing and do something exciting about what you're doing. You can do it on a budget. You have no excuse not to be exceptional. Today, if I can't Google you, you don't exist. If you're not on Facebook, you don't exist. If you're not on Instagram, you don't exist. Stop praying for God to bless you and take action and do something with what you have inside. When we come into a city and I need a barber, we get on Instagram and we put in a barber and hair care and we find them there. There are thousands of barbers in the city that will never get my business because if I can't find you on my phone, you're invisible, you don't exist. Does anybody know that you're there? Or your seeds? Still on the shelf. Fitting to. I'm fitting to. I'm fitting to. I'm gonna do something great in a minute. I'm gonna do something awesome in a minute. I don't have time. You got time to do everything else. You got time to do everything else. You got to. It's so simple today. You cannot be successful and keep it a secret. Your business has to be exposed. It has to get out the box. It has to be planted. It has to be harvested. And if you will do what others have not done, you can go where others have not been. That means while other people are catching up on the latest round of scandal, you're out there doing what needs to be done. Oh, you don't hear what I'm saying to you? That means you're focused on where you're trying to go. I don't know why, but I just feel like that I'm boosting somebody who's about to do something utterly amazing. They cannot pick you if they do not see you. Come out wherever you are. Come out wherever you are. Come out wherever you're hiding. Come out wherever you are. Come out. Gay people are coming out, lesbians coming out, homosexuals coming out. It's time for the church to come out. Come out of the closet. Come out, come out, come out. Come out, come out, come out, come out wherever you are. Who am I talking to? Come out. Can I go a little bit deeper? See, one of the problems that we have today is really that we're working with faulty systems. We're working with old systems, old models. There are a lot of people in this room that think you're cutting edge and you're not. You were cutting edge 20 years ago, and you've been so busy for 20 years you haven't even looked up to see that you've gotten behind. You used to be good at what you do, but good keeps moving. And you're so busy you don't get it done. I want to go a little bit deeper. Can I go a little bit deeper? When Paul says, when I was a child, I thought of the child. I spake of the child. I understood as a child. He said, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. He said, when I was a child, I spake of the child, I understood as a child, and I thought of the child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. He says, at one level in my life, I spoke like what I was. I understood like what I was. I thought like what I was. And because I spoke, understood, and thought like a child, it was fine to be a child. He said, but I looked around and my situation had exceeded my system. Yes, sir. You didn't hear how bad that was. That was so bad it just made the hair on my beard say, ooh. See, my circumstances moved into an arena, but my system has not. Yes. My system, what is my system? The way I speak, yes. The way I understand, and the way I think. Yes. The way I speak, yes. The way I understand, and the way that I think. Yes. If thoughts are going to be the seed that causes the garden to grow, I better check up on the way I speak, on the way I understand, and the way that I think. Good news. Here's the amazing thing. He says, when I became a man, I put away childish things. Now, he became a man without putting them away. In other words, my body outgrew my system. And here I am, a grown man with little boy issues. Has your business outgrown your system? Are the people around you faithful to who you used to be? I became a man, but my system was antiquated. The way I did business, the way I functioned, the way I lived, the way I loved, the way I prayed didn't catch up with where I am. Yeah. Because really, everything about you is being tested through the way you speak, the way you understand, and the way that you think. In fact, speak, understand, think. Speak, understand, think. SUT. S-U-T, systems under testing. Systems under testing. Systems under testing. Whenever there's trouble in an organization, a company, or movement, it's a SUT problem. It's your systems are under testing. Your systems are under testing. The way you speak, the way you understand, and the way that you think is your system. It defines you. Have you outgrown your system? If not, maybe a better question, has the world outgrown your system? I don't have time to go into it now, but our entire systems have to keep being updated. The way we do everything has to keep being updated. As we evolved and opportunities changed, if I did not revolutionize what I was going to do next, I would be way behind. There was a guy who was a former president of the Regional Chamber of Commerce when he was leaving the position. He said, you know, his name's Stephen Mansfield. He said, you know, as I do, that the greatest challenge in corporations is not where we are going, but what are we willing to leave behind. It is not where we're going. Everybody wants to go forward. Everybody has an idea of where they want to go. Everybody wants to evolve. The challenge becomes, yes, sir, what are you willing to leave behind? You cannot be who you were and who you are at the same time. Your systems are under testing by every scuffle, every problem, every lost revenue. Check your systems. First thing you do when you bring your car in, check the system. They do a radical test to see if everything is functioning up to par. And I'm telling you right now that you have to be radical or you have to be entombed. The death of radicalism is killing every facet of our life. If you were the creative woman you used to be, it would help your marriage. It would help your business because you used to put thought into it. You used to speak differently, understand differently, and think differently. If you were the man, yes, sir, that you used to be, your life, your marriage, your home would all be different. Are you willing to challenge your system? I'll close with this. People speak, understand, and think as a result of the narrative they tell themselves. The way you remember your childhood is a result of the narrative you told yourself. But if I call a family reunion, what you remember is not what happened. Recently, we had a newscaster go through all kinds of trouble because what he remembered was not how it happened. Over the years, he'd added little pieces to the story. And I don't know him, but I don't think he was lying. It's just that the stories we tell ourselves over the years, we look better and better in them. We look better and better in them. And they were shooting from every angle, and I had to fight my way through the crowd. And I jumped out of the helicopter. I landed on a rock. Okay. And all of a sudden, it becomes his truth. While we are talking about him, isn't a little bit of him in all of us? Until you're willing to challenge your own story, which is filled with your own excuses, you'll never change the system. It is not where you're trying to go. It is what are you willing to leave behind. What in the way that you speak, you understand, and you think, are you willing to leave behind in this season of your life to attain what is your highest and best use for yourself? What are you willing to drop? What grudge? What propensity, what habit are you willing to let go of What persons are you willing to let go of? What do you need to change to remain relevant, to remain radical, to get back into your creative space and do the thing that you were created to do, to get the courage to be a radical man again? I'll close. I was talking to, gosh, I can't think of his name. A very prominent news reporter, and we were sitting around talking, and he's about 80 or so, and I'm 57, and he asked me how I was doing. I told him I'm doing pretty good. I said, I'm getting old. I said, but I'm doing pretty good. He said, stop your narrative. He said, stop saying to yourself, you're getting old. Because what that says is that you think your good old days are behind you. He said, but listen, he said, your good old days are in front of you. Okay? Bob Schaefer, I couldn't think of it, and I came, Bob Schaefer. And Bob says to me, he said, every Pulitzer Prize, every award I ever got, every major accomplishment in my life happened after 65. So this narrative that you are telling yourself, based on some fanciful ideology that you were only vibrant when you were 20, that you were only relevant when you were 30, that you were only powerful when you were 40, is totally ridiculous. He said, every powerful thing that happened in my life happened after 65. I want you to challenge the story you're telling yourself. And what you are using to acquiesce and dumb down your radical creative edge is a result of being lulled to sleep by the lullaby story you told to your dreams. And that is the death of radicalism. Thank you very much.
Wow. Let's take a seat, please.